So easily, a lot of the youngsters, the first mistake they make is buying a very nice car, which is actually more than half the salary.
Let's talk about all the different kinds of debt there are out there. Of course, like if you're an entrepreneur, it's a whole different thing. For a company, if you have debts, sometimes it's a good thing. We're going to talk about it in another show. But for an individual, what are the most common debts that are out there?
I think for the normal individual, credit card debt is one of the most common ones. And then you definitely do have like personal debts. That you would take on. If let's say you're a student, you definitely have to still, service your student loans. And the next two things that is very common is actually a mortgage loan, either buying a property, either a house or for personal consumption, and also hire purchase loans, which is your vehicles loans.
Right.
So these would be the most common debts that any individual would have.
But when people use their credit cards, like, what is the most common mistake people make?
They get very confused. Like, do they pay the minimum amount or do they need to pay the outstanding amount or the statement amount? So I think a lot of people, when they see, hey, I can only pay this small amount of few hundred, but I actually struck for 3,000 already, right? They would just go, okay, I just paid the minimum, but without really realizing what's really happening to them in that sense.
Getting a car is kind of essential nowadays. There's no way around it, basically getting a car loan. So what are the common mistakes that people make from getting a car?
For cars, I think the most common mistakes that I've seen many of my clients doing, especially the younger ones, right, is getting an expensive car when it doesn't quite make sense. So easily, a lot of the youngsters, the first mistake they make is buying a very nice car, which is actually more than half the salary.
Are you allowed to do that? No, I thought you're technically don't do the math and like what you can repay and everything, right?
Yeah. So I think in terms of this, if let's say you have a very stable job and you are from an MNCs, it's not a difficult for banks to actually approve your loans in some ways.
Right.
It's not difficult because you can actually substantiate. I don't have any other loans. I've only got this one loan, and it makes sense. But what would actually happen is that if you think about it, that is just a loan for a car, right? We have not budgeted in petrol, servicing, your insurance, your road tax, and that all really will come up to a very, very huge amount.
You touched on this earlier, property, a lot of other things involved, not just the down payment, right? So what do people get wrong about property and loans?
In terms of properties, I think a lot of people just are very much concerned about down payment. They don't factor in, for example, legal fees. Stamping fees. If you're buying a second-hand property, it's valuation, that needs to be done. So a lot of these hidden costs is not something that they budget for. Okay, and the second thing also is like what we briefly mentioned earlier on, right? You want to furnish the place. It's an empty unit, right? You just buy from developers, totally empty. You still need money to furnish this place, but they don't actually have allocations for a new property either.
Hey guys, we hope you loved that discussion, but for the full discussion and all our other videos, click right here. And remember, don't be a dick.